let us discuss. The question, as we said, did the Bengal players quit on Zac Taylor? So I've got Chronic, New York Times, and Pfizer. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some delicious Mediterranean chicken is what we're going to make, and side of rice. Somewhat healthy. I'm told that's somewhat healthy. Probably not that healthy, but what the hell. All right, so to answer the question, did the Cincinnati Bengals quit on Coach Zac Taylor? That is a rhetorical question. I am nodding my head. Yes, you can't see unless you're watching the YouTube feed, which is on youtube.com/@BenMaller Show. You can actually watch these monologues. Unbelievable. There's all these cameras. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cameras in here for a radio show. 7 cameras for a radio. Anyway. All right, so the Bengals flat out quit on Zac Taylor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And every man, woman, and child that watched that game that has any knowledge, even a rudimentary knowledge of how sports work, would agree with that take. That's not an outrageous take. They quit on their coach. They did. They played like they had a chronic case of I don't give an F. I'm not allowed to say what that F stands for. I think you can imagine what it stands for. This was not just a bad game. This was now back-to-back, belly-to-belly, coach-killing performances by the Cincinnati football team. Now, it's embarrassing to lose to Carson Wentz and the Vikings, get blown out in that game. And then Minnesota, the following week, they go across the Atlantic Ocean and they lose to a mediocre Pittsburgh team. So you say, okay, normally the rule is everyone's going to have a stinker, right? Every team's going to have a bad game. You can't stack them. You can't stack them like hotcakes. Cannot do it. Cannot do it. And so you can sting it up, but you can't do it back-to-back games there. And that's 2 Sundays, well, a Sunday and a Monday now in a row. You do that, you're trying to send a message. And what is the message? The message is, we are Dunskies with this guy. He ain't my coach. The guy's a bad coach. All right. Now, if you watch the game, this is such a mismatch. It's like those early season college football games where they're money games and you cut a giant check to the other team to come be fodder so you can beat them up. The Bengals had 9 first downs, an NFL team that plausibly practiced all week, that is paid a lot of money. It's their job. Had 9 first downs. They had 8 punts. They almost had 1-for-1 punt to first down. 159 yards. Denver put up 29 first downs and 512 yards of offense. Now, that is not football. Okay, that is not football. That is varsity scrimmaging against not even the JV. That's like varsity versus freshman is what that was. And these Cincinnati players were lollygagging. La, 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 la. That's what it sounds like when you lollygag. La, 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 la. You're lollygagging. You're lollygagging around like it was some kind of 7-on-7 walkthrough in OTAs or something like that. And I see this. I have seen this a lot in basketball. This is more of a basketball thing than a football thing. It's the NBA-ification of the NFL, what I saw here. You see this kind of thing in basketball. I used to, when I got into radio, one of my early jobs, I covered professional basketball, and I was around some really bad teams and some teams that did quit on their coach, that wanted to get the coach fired. So I know back then what it was like, and it's obviously the same thing. It's just with social media now. And you look at it, it's, again, something that's usually reserved for basketball, not something you see in football that much, where guys on purpose try to get the coach canned. And because of the physicality in football, it's not as common a situation. But when it happens, it's unmistakable. It's absolutely unmistakable. It's 3 strikes. You got strike 1, you're lazy. Strike 2, you lack passion. And strike 3, you lack character. And that's good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And that appears to be the Cincinnati Bengals. You watch what happens next. I don't know what the next move is. It's not about the scheme. It's not about that. I mean, I guess the move would be, and we'll see with some of the quotes coming out of the Bengals locker room following the Monday night game, but generally the move is publicly you say one thing, privately you say something else. Publicly you'll say it's on us, it's not the coach's fault. You'll give that speech. You'll have a team meeting. I always love that. We're going to have a team meeting. Yeah. Players-only meeting. And publicly you'll defend Zac Taylor. That's the move. You publicly defend Zac Taylor in front of the cameras and the microphones, and then privately you stick a butcher knife right in his back, right there. Big, bloody butcher knife right in the back. There you go. How's that going? But it's the NFL player's guide to getting a coach fired. I think that's on page 12. And if the Bengals had real ownership that really cared about winning, which they don't, it's good money. It's a good amount of money you can make. It's a family business there in Cincinnati. They had legitimate ownership that was passionate and cared. Zac Taylor would be left at the airport in Denver. He would have to take a Greyhound bus back to Cincinnati. That's not going to happen because they don't really care that much. They're more obsessed with pinching pennies than they are winning football games and all that stuff. It's a mom and pop shop. That's how they operate. There's something unique and cute about that there's a few family ownership groups left in the industrial complex of American sport, and they're one of them. And the family who currently runs the team, Paul Brown's the owner, but he's not doing everything day to day. But they just happen to get the right DNA and the right line, or they married well, and they're running the franchise and all that stuff. But they've been running this franchise the same way since the Reagan administration. It's been a minute, and there you go. So always out there counting their dollars and cents and whatnot, and good luck. So Mike Brown can count more nickels, and that'll go well for him. And the team, the locker room, waving the white flag here for sure. And so the Bengals did not just lose to Denver. There's no shame in losing. Every weekend, half the teams lose in the NFL. You quit. That's the thing. They quit. They quit. The Denver Broncos are quitters. On that night, on Monday night, they quit. That's the story. That's your story. And that is a coach-killing performance. That is a no-show, and effort is the one thing. You're not going to be talented. You're not going to be the most talented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you put the work in, that's the baseline. That's the baseline. All right, now, page 2. So more on this zombie island game for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm fascinated by it. Now, this was a scene right out of our friend Hayes in Minnesota. It was like a morgue scene there, watching the Cincinnati Bengals more than a football game. Now, I bring this up. The whole league is watching. With these island games, everyone's tuned in, right? In theory, anyway. Now, some of these guys who play football actually hate football, so they're not watching. But those that actually care about football, that are playing and coaching, they're watching. Probably at Applebee's somewhere, watching, eating some appetizers and watching the game. So I bring this up because everyone's watching, and the Bengals are going through the motions like the kids in the back of gym class that don't want to be there. We all know those. And so the epitome of this was Jamar Chase, the $161 million pass catcher for the Bengals. And he lost his mind. This video went viral, a clip of him getting into it with Zac Taylor, which is actually a good thing because it shows he's passionate. He knew the camera was on. He did it for the camera. I'm convinced of that. Everyone knows, hey, if your star receiver is going to confront the coach, there's going to be 7 different camera angles on it. So he knew exactly what he was doing, Jamar Chase. He knew that would be talked about. Things were not going well for the Bengals, and he confronted Zac Taylor on camera, yelling at him. So what did you make? The question, what did you make of Jamar Chase getting into a screaming match, a shouting match with the Bengals coach as the Cincinnati football team got into the fetal position and started sucking their thumb? So on this one, it's actually Bad Bunny's cousin, which is Bad Body Language. That's a second cousin of Bad Bunny. Bad Body Language is what this is, and it paid a visit, which is always part of the crumbling of the walls of teams that suck. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, there was also a clip that a couple of you idiots sent me of them sitting on the bench during the game, sitting there like they were waiting for Femi to deliver a bag of Uber Eats, some onion rings, possibly some fries, but maybe just onion rings and some mozzarella sticks. And they were just waiting on that. And they had the slumped shoulders. We all know the bad body language there. And there was kind of, oh, man, they were doing matador blocks. Ole, 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 ole. And they were doing that. They had the kind of like a half-speed jog kind of routine going on there. And it's the classic, hey, we're out on this coach. We do not like the coach. We do not want to be here. I don't like this altitude. I don't like the whole thing. I'm not happy. And, again, that's out of the New York Times bestseller, which is The Idiot's Guide to Losing. That is on page 33, if you check your notes, page 33 of The Idiot's Guide to Losing, as we discuss here on Fox Sports Radio. Star players moping on the sidelines. Coach staring into space, wondering why he chose this profession. You've got that. Check that box. You get the backup quarterback who's out there futzing around looking like he won a contest at a Kroger, a national contest, not just a local contest in Cincinnati. He won a national contest, and he was given the helmet. We're talking about Jake Browning here, who actually looked somewhat decently the last time he got some extended playing time when Joe Burrow got hurt a couple years back, and now looks like he doesn't know whether a football is puffed or stuffed when he's out there. And, again, it looks like he won a raffle at Paul Brown Stadium or whatever corporate name it has now. And, hey, how would you like to play quarterback for the Bengals? All right, I'll play quarterback for the Bengals. Why not? What the heck? All right? Now, don't sell me on losing builds character. I don't want to hear about losing builds character. My belief on losing has been pretty consistent over the years. Losing does not build character. It exposes character. And without Joe Burrow, what are we seeing from the Bengals here? What are we seeing? Are we seeing a team that's going next man up? We got to unite together. We got to lock in here. We got to lock in and go on the warpath. Or are we seeing a team that is filled with a bunch of show ponies? They're not the Bengals, they're the show ponies and front runners. Because that's what it looks like to me. That's what it's not, hey, whoever's there, we're going to win. Whether Burrow's here or not, it's like, no. The minute Joe Burrow went snap, crackle, pop, and his toe exploded, the whole season went right into the shredder. Right into the shredder. And they know they're cooked. They've got no fight. They're gutless. They're toothless. That's the Bengals. That's what they look like right now. I'm just merely reacting to what I'm watching. And if they're embarrassed by that and they're offended by that, how about you do better? Play better. Don't play like that. Don't play gutless